Masechet Zevaḥim Daf Samech Dalid. We mentioned yesterday that there are three things that are performed at the southwest corner below the red line, and another three activities that are done also on the southwest corner above the red line. So we start and we try to bring sources for them. Shelosha devarim vechule, the three things that are done below the red line on the southwest corner. One of them is hatat ta'of, hadamaran, the korban hatat, that's of a bird, for olev yored, that the blood ritual is done on the southwest corner below the line. And we already proved that on the daf yesterday. Hagashot dichtiv higisha el peneh hamizbeach. Meal offerings have to be brought close to the mizbeach, and that's brought close to the southwest corner. And we learn that from this pasuk that he brings it close to peneh hamizbeach. This is not an actual pasuk, it's a paraphrase of a pasuk. And in fact, both of these we learned together right on the previous daf, that where we cited these pesukim, that on the one hand it says el peneh hamizbeach, and the front of the mizbeach, that would be the south side, but it also says lifnei Hashem regarding korban mincha, which would be the west side in front of the hechal. And so in order to fulfill both of them, we would do it on the corner, and that's korban mincha, and we learned the korban hatat from the korban mincha, because here it is called both chatat and mincha, so that way we can learn one from the other. And so we've already derived all of those laws, and therefore we can go on to the next one. She yareh hadam dichtiv et kol dam hatpad yishpoch el yesod hamizbeach. The remainder of the blood, after you sprinkle the blood wherever it needs to be sprinkled, the remainder is poured on the base at the southwest corner. And we know that because the pasuk says, and all of the blood of the bull he will pour onto the base of the mizbeach, and we've discussed that this is the southwest corner back on daf 53a. So this is all material that was covered already. Now the next three items. Milma'la. Nisuch hamayim v'hayayin ve'olat ha'of kishehi rabba ba'mizrach. At the southwest corner above the red line, they would pour water libations and wine libations, and a korban olah that you'll bring from a bird is really supposed to be on the southeast corner. We will see why. However, if there's too many to bring on the southeast corner, then you can bring the extras on the southwest corner. Okay, when the east is too much. Mai ta'ama, what is the source of this? What's the reason? Rabbi Yochanan amar mipnei shekeroba mi bet hadeshen. Rabbi Yochanan says because, so in general use the southeast corner because that's the closest to the place where the ashes are, as we're going to see in a second. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, bo r'eh kama gadol kochan shel kohanim, she'en lecha kal ba'ofot yoter mimur'a v'notza, pa'amim she'hakohen zorkan yoter mi besheloshim ama. Rabbi Yochanan says, look how strong the Kohanim are, physically strong, because there's nothing lighter than crop and feathers of the bird. When you have a korban olah, you burn the whole thing, but not literally the whole thing. You do not burn the crop of the bird nor the feathers. Those have to be placed on Bet Hadeshen, a pile of ashes. They're not burned on top of the mizbeach. Now the Kohen is going to have to get it to the Bet Hadeshen by throwing it, but it's a bit far. Now it's easier to throw something heavy than to throw far than something light. Like you're going to throw a wiffle ball is a lot harder to throw than a heavy baseball. So they have to take a feather. How far can you throw a feather? Not so far. Yet, look how strong the Kohanim are, that they can throw the crop and the feathers all the way from where they were, which we'll see, to the place of the Bet Hadeshen. Sometimes you had to throw it that far, and it would be more than 30 amot, like 50 feet. That is a long way. Okay, let's look at the map, and then we'll see the Mishnah that further shows this. The place of the burning of the ashes is here on the east side of the mizbeach. We're about to see in the Mishnah is going to say it's 10 amot from the edge of the ramp, so that leaves 22 amot. The ramp all told is 32 amot, so that leaves 22 amot from where the ashes are placed to the side of the mizbeach, up, or if he's standing up to the top of the mizbeach, that edge. Now, that's the southeast corner, so that explains why do we take the olah birds on the southeast corner, because that corner is the closest to the place of ashes. So if he's up here, he would have to throw it. It would just be 22 amot. That's the shortest way, and therefore that's the best corner. However, we just learned that if there's too many for this corner and there's extras, then you can use the southwest corner. Well, if you go to that corner, then he's going to be farther away. How much farther away? Well, 22 amot this way. You have to account for the width of the ramp, which is 16, and then from the edge of the ramp until the corner is another 6. So that's how you get 22. So you're going to have to throw it in the end, the hypotenuse of a 22 by 22 triangle, to get all the way from the southwest corner to the place of the ashes. And if you do that calculation, you get 30 4/5. And so that's the point here. He has to throw feathers more than 30 amot. That 30 4/5 is in fact more than 30 amot. And now we're going to prove that all this is the case. Ditnan, the Mishnah Masechet Tamid teaches, Natal machta shel kesef ala lerosh hamizbeach. This is for dishun hamizbeach. The first thing that's done in the morning is a kohen would have to clean off a little bit of the ashes from on top of the mizbeach. And the way he does it is he takes a coal pan made out of silver and he goes up to the top of the altar. Mipinat gechalim elach ve'elach vechatamina meukalot apnimiyot veyored. He doesn't take off all of the ashes, but rather he pushes the top of the pile to this side and that side so that he can get underneath and take from some of the consumed coals, the ones that are really, really burnt. And then he comes down the ramp, veyored. Higia larispa, he gets down to the floor, back down here. Machazir panav kelape safon veholech lemizracho shel kebesh ke'eser amot. And then when he gets down here, he turns around and goes northward 10 amot. So in other words, the pile of ashes is not at the edge of the ramp, but rather 10 amot further to the north. And he places those, heaps them on the floor. But they shouldn't be touching the altar itself, but rather from the ramp. They shouldn't be touching the ramp, but rather he makes it a distance of 3 tefachim away from the ramp. At that spot, you also place the crop and the feathers of a bird. Of it, that's an olah, and also the ashes that are in the inner mizbeach. That we just talked about clearing off the outer mizbeach, but also the inner mizbeach is going to have ashes, and the menorah is going to have ashes, and all those when you clean them out, they're placed on that spot. So now we learn from this Mishnah many things. We learn where the place of the ashes is. We learn that the crop and the feathers also go on that spot. And so now we see that since it's that spot, if it's on from the northeast, southeast corner, then that would be just 22 or so, maybe a little more, because he has to go to the corner. But if it's over here, then it's going to be over 30 amot. Now we ask, wait, it's not more than 30, it's even more than 31, because that we just saw it's 3 tefachim away from here, and the kohen has to stand and a little to the side and throw it from there, so it's going to end up being a little more, right? And we answer, no. Mekom gabre la chashiv, the place where the person is we don't count. So we don't count the person where he is itself, but rather past where he is. He's going to throw it, and so he throws forwards. So from the point where it leaves his hand, we can start calculating from there. And if you start calculating from there, so you could take off a little bit over here, even though this is a little bit more because it's 3 tefachim away, it'll end up still being a little bit less than 31 amot. So this is exact, and that shows the tremendous strength of the Kohen Gadol. We also understand why the best place is the southeast corner, second best place is the southwest corner. Kol ha'olim lamizbeach mai ta'ama. The Mishnah taught that anyone who goes up the ramp should always go on the right side of the ramp, because then he's going to turn right and go around counterclockwise. So to minimize the steps, it wouldn't make any sense to go up the left side or even the middle. You go up the right, so you'd be closest to that direction, and then you go up, and whatever you have to do up there, you have, different korbanot, whatever you're bringing up there. So you do it up there and you go counterclockwise and then you come down on the left side. That's generally what one does, except for the people that have to do things on the southwest corner, because in that case, we don't go up and all the way around, but rather he goes straight there, up on the left side and straight back down the left side. That's what the Mishnah taught. Now we ask, "My ta'ama, what is the reason?" Amar Rabbi Yochanan, "Nisachim shema yitashenu, ve'olat ha'of shema tamut be'ashan." Regarding the libations of wine and water, we don't want the kohen to carry them up here because they will get smoky. There's a lot of smoke up here, and the water and the wine have to just remain in their normal state. If they go up here and get all smoky, it's going to change their taste and their character, and then they won't be, that's not good. So therefore, we don't want them to go up with it. And the olat ha'of shema tamut be'ashan. If you bring a bird up there, so the bird will die just from the smoke. It's very sensitive. It's a lot of smoke up here. So we don't want it to come up here and die from the smoke. Instead, we bring it straight to the corner. That's the reasons why we don't go around. Urminhu, we have a contradiction from a Mishnah Masechet Tamid. Balo lehakif et hamizbeach me'ayin hu matchil mikeren deromit mizrachit tzefonit ma'ravit deromit venotnin lo yayin lenasech. We see that this Mishnah is talking about pouring wine on the Mizbeach. And it says that when he comes to circle the altar, where does he start from? Well, he starts from the southeast, and he goes to the northeast, and then to the northwest, and then to the southwest. Well, that's counterclockwise. He goes up, goes all around, and then it says they give him the Yayin Esech. So it sounds like he does go all around, even though he's doing the Yayin Nesech. And we just said that he doesn't go all around, he just goes straight to the southwest corner. So how can we reconcile these sources? Amar Rabbi Yochanan, hakafa baregel. Amar Rava, daikaname dekatane, notnin lo Yayin lenasech velo katani, omer lo nasech shema'mina. Rabbi Yochanan says, no, in this Mishnah, in Masechet Tamid, we're talking about a case where he goes up without the wine. He goes up just on foot. So he goes up, maybe he has other things to do up there. He's bringing other items, a limb of an animal, whatever. He's bringing it up, doing what he has to do, goes around. And then when he arrives here at this corner, someone will hand him the wine and he will pour it. And that way, it will not get smoky from being on top. And that's the answer of Rabbi Yochanan. And Rava says that is the simple reading, in fact, of the Mishnah, because the Mishnah Masechet Tamid says they give him Yayin Esech, right? That's right here. Notnim lo. He wasn't carrying it before. It doesn't say then they tell him, okay, now do the nisuch. That means he was not carrying it, and so that is a good solution. When our Mishnah says that when you're doing things on the southwest corner, you go straight there. That's if he only has to do nisuch. Okay, then he has no reason to go up there and go all around. So then he goes to go straight up on the left side, do the nisuch, and come right back down. But if he is going up for other things, that's fine. Go up normally on the right side, go around. When he gets here, they'll hand it to him. So either way, the Yayin Nesech will not get all the smoke in it. Tenor Banan, Kol ha'olin hamizbeach olin derech yamin v'yordin derech semol. Olin derech mizrach v'yordin derech ma'arav. Now, Braita, more about the direction that a Kohen goes in. Anytime someone goes up to the Mizbeach, they're going to go up on the right side of the ramp, and come down on the left side. They go up the east side and they come down the west side. That's the same thing, right? Here is the east side, which is the right side. So he goes up here, then he goes around, and he goes down the left side of the ramp. Left side meaning when you're facing the Mizbeach. If you're down here, this is the right side, this is the left side. So he goes around, goes down the left side, which is also the west side. And the left and the west are the same. Chutz min ha'oleh lishlosha devarim halalu, except for the person that goes up for these three things that we just mentioned: the wine libation, the water libation, and a korban olah of a bird. With that, there's not enough there's not enough room on the other side. That is all these three things that are done on the top of the red line are done on the southwest corner. And those people, when they go and do that, she'olim derech ma'arav yodin derech ma'arav, they go up the west, and they go there, and then they come right back down on the west side of it. which we understand. But now here's something curious. Olin derech yamin v'yordin derech yamin. But then it says they go up the right side and they go down the right side. This seems to be a mistake. So you just said the west. We could call that the left side. Don't you mean the left side? So we ask, derech yamin, derech semolhu. Why do you say the right side? The right side, it should be the left side. Amar Ravina, tene semol. Ravina says, you're right. It's a mistake in the Baraita. Take out the word yamin here and put in semol. Rava Amar, my yamin, yamin de mizbeach, or my semol, semol de gavra. We'd rather not have to change the wording of a Baraita. It was memorized this way. So Rava says, no, I can explain it as is. When we say the right side, we mean the right side of the mizbeach. And when we say left side, the left side of the person. Meaning, when it says the side derech yamin at the end of the Baraita, it means if you're on the mizbeach facing outwards, facing south, then that will be the right side of the mizbeach, right? If you're up here looking towards the south, then this is the right side. And so that's what we mean here when at the end of the Baraita when it says right side. And when we say left side, we mean up here when we say that you should come down the left, that means a left of a person who's facing the mizbeach, he's facing north. And so that will make sense. Now, this is problematic because nitni o idi v'idi de mizbech o idi v'idi de gabra. Try to be consistent when you're saying right and left, and either say all the directions from the point of view of someone standing on the mizbech facing south, or from the point of view of someone on the bottom of the ramp facing north. You can't keep switching your point of view because then that would be very confusing. So kashya, that is a difficulty of the explanation of Rava, and so therefore perhaps best just to correct the reading of the Baraita to say simol instead of yamin. That brings us to the next Mishnah. Chatat ha'of kesad haya na'aset. What is the procedure for offering a bird offering as a korban chatat? The next words do not belong in the Mishnah. It talks about going up the ramp and going to the southeast, but for chatat ha'of, you go directly to the southwest. You don't go around the mizbeach. So that's why these words are in parentheses. So we skip them. Hayam molek et rosha mimol orpa ve'eno mavdil. So rather, he's going to go, yes, to the southwest corner, and then you do milika. He would pinch its neck, its head from the back of its neck. But although he pinches with his thumbnail into it and there severs its life force, but it does not completely sever the head. The head will still be attached to the body partially. And then he sprinkles from the blood onto the wall of the mizbeach. And he has to sprinkle some blood onto the mizbeach, on the wall, and then the leftover blood he would squeeze out onto the base of the mizbeach. The mizbeach only gets the blood. The flesh goes to the kohanim. They can consume it. It's called korban chatat. So the kohanim can eat the rest of it. Tenor banan, v'izah midam hachatat miguf hachatat. Hakesad. So Braita is going to expand and quote the pasuk that says he sprinkles from the blood of the chatat, and that means from the body of the chatat. How so? Ochez barosh ubaguf umazeh al kir hamizbeach. He holds the head and the body of it and sprinkles directly from the head and the body onto the mizbeach. In other words, he does not empty it out into a vessel like you would do for an animal sacrifice. We have to catch it in a vessel. He doesn't take it with his finger and dab it like he does for some korbanot, but rather the bird itself with the head attached, he's going to shake and using that shaking motion, sprinkle it onto the side of the mizbeach. That's what it means, miguf hachatat, from it itself. And he only sprinkles it on the wall of the mizbeach, not onto the ramp, and not onto the echal, and not onto the wall of the ulam, nothing else. And when we say kir hamizbeach, it means the lower part of it. Now, how do you know it's the lower part, below the red line? Maybe it should be the upper realm of it, but above the red line. Vedinu, and in fact, you could reason from a kal vachomer that a bird chatat should be above the line. How so? Uma behema she'olata lemata chatata lema'la. An animal sacrifice that's an olah gets sprinkled below the line, and yet it's for the chatat of an animal, it goes above. So therefore, of she'olato lema'la and nodin shechatato lema'la. If a bird offering where the korban olah of a bird is up, so all the more so the chatat should also be up. If an animal where the olah is above but the olah is below, for an animal the olah is below and the chatat is above, so it means the chatat should be higher than the olah. For the olah itself is above, so all the more so chatat should be above. So that's what I would think if I didn't have a pasuk. That's why I need the pasuk. Talmud Omar v'anishar badam yimaseh el yesod hamizbeach. The leftover blood shall be, yimaseh is a passive. It shall be squeezed, not you will squeeze it, but it shall be squeezed down on the base of the mizbech. So literally it's talking about the last step. After you do milika and sprinkle the blood izah, then you do the yimaseh, you squeeze it out onto the mizbeach. But this squeeze, it doesn't say an active verb, but a passive verb. So what does that mean? Kir shashirayin shelo mitmasim layesod ve'zeh kir hatachton. It should be sprinkled on a wall where the remnants of it, the remaining blood, will drain onto the base. So how could that happen? Only on the lower part. If you sprinkle something on above the red line, then yeah, it may drip down, but it'll drip down only onto the sovev. It's not going to get all the way down to the base. But only if you sprinkle and put blood on the lower half, then by itself, just by gravity, eventually it'll trickle down and go on the base. And that's how we know. We just clarified this derasha. How do you know? Maybe you should put it on the above and also put it below. Sprinkle it above and then also put some below. No, it doesn't say an active verb. You should place it, but only says a passive verb, which means that all the placements of the blood have to be in a place where on its own, it will drip down to the base, and therefore all the placements are below the red line. Amarav Zutra, Bar Tuvia Amarav. Rav is now going to explain precisely how you do the melika. The idea is that you should use the right hand, and it would be easier to use the left hand to hold the bird and then do the melika with the right finger. And there are some that say that it's like that, but this Gemara is going to seem to suggest that the whole thing is done with the right hand. So how do you do that? Ochez gapav b'shte espeotav. You hold on to the wings with two fingers. Ushte raglayim b'shte espeot, and you hold on to the legs with another two fingers. Umoteach savara al rochab gudalo umolkan. You stretch the neck over the width of a thumb and pinch its back. Here's a picture according to Rav. So you're holding the bird in the palm of your hand, and here you're holding the wings between these two fingers and the legs between these two fingers, and then the neck is resting over the thumb, and then you can take that thumb and bend it and pinch the back of its neck with the nail of the thumb. That's opinion number one. But there's a braita that explains that actually you do it with the bird on the outside, on the back of the hand. You're still going to hold the wings between two fingers and the birds within two fingers, but the other way around. But then you stretch the neck over the width of two fingers and you do melika. So here's a picture of that. So it's around the back of it, and so that the neck is going around these fingers here, and then you hold it with the thumb and do melika there. You can imagine this takes a lot of practice to get this right. Bird's probably trying to move around and trying to fly away while you're trying to do this. So therefore, it says this is the most difficult thing to do in the mikdash. Now we ask, Zohi vetula, that's it? This is really the most difficult? Vaika kemisa v'chanifa. Kemisa is also difficult. You have to take a handful of flour and you have to smooth it out with the other fingers, and you have to make sure it's just the right amount and nothing drops out of it. So that's a hard thing to do. And also chafina. Chafina is on Yom Kippur when the Kohen Gadol has to bring the ketoret into the Kodesh Kodashim. And so he has to bring the ketoret in one vessel, and he brings the coals in another fire pan. So he's holding one in his right and one in his left. And so now he has to walk carefully into it. And then he has to take, without putting anything down, he has to get the incense spices that are in the vessel into his cupped hands. So he has to cup his hands together so that he can't hold the item with his hand. He has to hold it with his elbow, with his underarm, and somehow maneuver it to turn it around and empty it into his hands without spilling anything. So that was a really difficult feat. It required a lot of practice. So aren't those more difficult? Or as difficult at least? So don't say no. It's not that the milika is the most difficult, but rather it's a difficult thing to do. It's from among the most difficult things that one did in the mikdash. Next Mishnah. Ola ta'of kesad na'aset. We just talked about the chata ta'of. How do you make a korban ola from a bird? Ala la kevesh, ufana la sobeb, uba lo lekeren teromit mizrachit. This one, he does go up the ramp and he turns right, and he comes to the southeastern corner. That's where he's supposed to do the olah. Hayam olek et rosha mimul orpa umavdil. And this time he does milika, and he severs the head at the back of the neck, and he separates the head completely, unlike the korban chatat, where we leave the head attached. Here, it's totally detached. Umisa et dama al kir hamizbeach. So once he severs the head, then he's going to squeeze the blood onto the wall of the mizbeach. So that would be the initial blood that's squirting out as the hazayah. And then natal et harosh vikif bet milikato la mizbeach. Then he takes the head by itself and he brings it near the wall of the mizbeach from the place where it was pinched, meaning the flesh side. He puts that next to the mizbeach so that all the blood that's in it he would squeeze onto the mizbeach. Sifago bamelach, and then he would put salt on it so the salt would absorb the remaining blood. Uzrako al gabeha ishim, and he throws the entire head onto the fire that's on the mizbeach. It's a korban olah, so all these parts are going to be put on. The purpose of the salt is not actually to kosher it to get the blood out, but rather because all korbanot require salt to be placed on them. Salt as a preservative is supposed to symbolize that this korban represents the berit, and we want the berit to be preserved and remain for a long, long time. Balo laguf. Okay, after he dealt with the head, then he can come to the body. Esir et ha-mur'a vet ha-nosa vet bnei ha-me'ayim hayosin imam v'shlichan lebet hadeshen. Now, you don't burn every part of it because it's not respectful to take the innards and these gross parts of it, but rather he removes the crop and the feathers and the innards that from the body of it, and he throws that onto the ashes that we talked about above. That's right on the side of the ramp. Shisa velo hibdil, ve'im hibdil kasher. In this case, he rips the bird open in half, but does not separate the two halves. He just cuts it down the middle so that it opens up inside. Now, if he did end up cutting it totally in half, those two parts not connected, it's still kosher. But ideally, this should be just split open, but not totally separated. Sofgo b'melach uzrako al gabe ha'ishim. And he puts salt in it to absorb the remaining blood with that salt, and throws the body together with the salt, everything onto it. So I guess he has to open it up, cut it open so he could put the salt inside. And that, again, is not to get rid of the blood, but rather because that's a necessary part of every korban. Lo hesir hamur'a velo hanosa et bnei me'ayim hayosin imam velo sefago b'melach kol sheshina ba me'achar shemisa et ama keshera. Let's say he skipped a step and he did not remove the crop or the feather or the innards that emerged with them, and he did not put salt in it. Anything that he did differently changed after he squeezed the blood. is still kosher because the placing of the blood, that's the main thing. Once you do that, so he achieved the purpose. The korban is acceptable. Everything else after that you're supposed to do, but if you don't do it, the korban is still valid. Hivdil b'chatat velo hivdil ba'olah pasul. If he separated the head completely for a korban chatat, you're not supposed to. You're supposed to keep it attached. Or if it was a korban olah and he did not detach the head completely, it's pasul. For korban chatat, you have to leave it attached. Korban olah, you have to totally detach it. That's necessary. Misa et dam harosh velo misa dam haguf pesala. If he squeezed out the blood in the head, but did not squeeze out the blood in the body of the korban olah, it's no good. Dam haguf velo misa et dam harosh keshera. But as long as he squeezed out the blood that's in the body, even if he did not squeeze out the blood that's in the head, that's okay. The body is the main thing. The head is not me'akev. חטאת העוף שמלקה שלא לשמה, מיסה דמה שלא לשמה, לשמה ושלא לשמה, או שלא לשמה ולשמה, pasul. We said all the way at the beginning of this masechet that a korban chatat has to be done for the sake of a korban chatat. If you have in mind, when doing korban chatat, when you're doing any of the basic rituals, that this is a korban olah or anything else, it's pasul. So that applies here also to the bird. If you're doing the korban, the chatat ta'of, and you do the melika shelo lishma, you do it thinking it's an olah, or you squeeze the blood thinking it's an olah, or you start off lishma, but then you end up shelo lishma, or you start with lishma and then lishma, or you start shelo lishma and then change to lishma. In all these cases, because at any point during the process you had shelo lishma, whether it's at the beginning or the end, it's pasul. Olah ta'of keshera. If you're doing a olah ta'of and you have in mind to be something else, so korban olah, that's still kosher. It's a valid korban. That's the rule that we said all the way at the beginning of the masechet also. However, it will not fulfill the obligation of the owner that brings it. The owner has to bring a korban olah. So now this was the guy the Kohen had in mind that it's a chatat or something else. It's kosher, meaning that you can continue with the process. However, the owners are going to have to bring another bird. Echad chatat ta'of, echad olah ta'of, shemelakan v'shemisad daman, le'echol davar shedarko le'echol, u'laktir davar shedarko le'laktir, chutz limkomo, pasul ve'en bo karet. If you have, whether it's korban chatat, a bird chatat, or a bird olah, if you did the milika, or you sprinkled the blood, having in mind while doing those activities that you're going to eat a part of it that's supposed to be eaten, like in a korban chatat, where part of it, the body is eaten, or that you're going to burn something that normally is burned, like the korban the off, where you burn all of it. If you have in mind that you're going to consume part of it in the wrong place outside of the mikdash, then the korban is invalid, although one does not get karet for that, because that's only chutz limkomo. However, if he has in mind chutz lizmano, that he's going to eat it the next day outside the time, or he's going to burn it, to the next day outside the time, that's pigul v'chayvin alav karet. It is the full pigul, and he is liable to karet. But you only get karet, it's only fully pigul, if you did everything else in the proper way. So it's a matir, that which would make the korban valid. So you do everything else kemisvato, and the only thing that you didn't do correctly is you had in mind chutz lizmano. Kesad karav hamatir kemisvato. What does that mean? That you did everything else properly. Malak bishtika umisa hadam chutz lizmano, or shemalak chutz lizmano misa hadam bishtika, or shemalak umisa hadam chutz lizmano. Zeu shekarav hamatir kemisvato. If you did the milika without having any intention at all, nothing that disqualifies it, but then you did the sprinkling of the blood, having in mind and the outside of the time, or you did the milika thinking outside the time, but then the squeezing of the blood, you'd had no improper intention, or you did the milika and you also did the squeezing of the blood, both of them chutz lizmano. Okay, but it doesn't matter if it's one or the other or both. The only problem you did was have in mind chutz lizmano, but otherwise everything else is proper. So that's called that it was sacrificed in a permitting way according to the mitzvah, except for the pigul. Then that's pigul and chayav karet. Kesad lo karev hamatir kemisvato. What's an example of someone who did not make the sacrifice properly, so that it also is not pigul? Malak chutz limkomo umisah hadam chutz lizmano. You had combined intention. First you did the milika, having in mind outside the place, and then you did the mitzvah outside the time, or shemalach chutz lizmano umisat adam chutz limkomo, or the other way around. You did the milika having a wrong time, but then you do the mitzvah, the squeezing, and the wrong place. It doesn't matter what order it's in. The fact that you did chutz limkomo later on will make the whole process not proper. So therefore, not proper for getting karet. Or shemalak umisa hadam chutz limkomo, or you did everything only having in mind chutz limkomo. So that's no karet for that. Chatat ta'ov shemelako shelo lishma umisa hadam chutz lizmano, or shemalach chutz lizmano umisa damo shelo lishma. Or if it's a korban chatat bird, and you did the melika having in mind that it's going to be a korban olah, that by itself makes it pasul. So therefore, when afterwards you do the squeezing of the blood chutz lizmano, since it already has a different problem, no karet. Or the other way around, if you did milika having in mind chutz lizmano, but then you squeezed it for the sake of a different korban, that's a new problem, and therefore no karet. Or shemalak umisa hadam shelo lishma zehu shelo karev hamatir kemisvato. Or you did the milika, or the squeezing of the blood, having in mind the different korban. In all these cases, this is something where he did not fulfill all the other obligations in the proper way, and therefore there will be no karet in any of these cases. Lechol kezayit bachutz kezayit lemachar, kezayit lemachar kezayit bachutz, kechasi zayit bachutz kechasi zayit lemachar, kechasi zayit lemachar kechasi zayit bachutz, pasul ve'en bo karet. Here also is a combination of two problems. He had in mind that he's going to eat a kezayit outside and also a kezayit in the wrong time. So that's part of it. It's not just the wrong time. It's partly chutz makom. So therefore that's a different pasul. So no karet. Or a kezayit tomorrow and a kezayit bachutz. The other way around chronologically. Or half a zayit outside of the place and half a zayit outside of the time. That still includes a different problem. Or half a zayit tomorrow and then half a zayit in the wrong place. He switched around the order. In all these cases, pasul ve'en bo karet, because there is an element of a different issue besides just outside the time. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, zeh kelal, im machashevet hazman kadma lemachshevet hamakom, pigul v'chayabin alav karet. Rabbi Yehuda disagrees with Tanakama, and he says, no, here's the rule. If the intention of the wrong time is first, before the intention of outside the place, then pigul v'chayavin alav karet, and it is pigul and liable to karet, because right there at the moment that you had chutz lazman, that's it, you get karet. And then the other things that you do wrong after are not going to retroactively change the first bad thing that you did, which was chutz lazman. However, if you had in mind to eat it in the wrong place first, and only after that the wrong time, then it's only pasul and en bo karet, because here the wrong makom already makes it pasul, and then therefore it's not the pigul intention, it will not apply to it. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Hachamim omnim zeh v'zeh pasul ve'en bo karet. Hachamim say it doesn't matter which one comes first. In both of these cases, it will be pasul, but there will be no karet. Lechol kachasi zayit ulaktir kachasi zayit kasher she'en achila v'aktara mistarefin. If he had in mind that he's going to eat half a zayit in the wrong time or wrong place, and he's going to burn a half a kezayit in the wrong time or wrong place, then the whole korban is kasher. Not only is there no karet, it's not even pasul, it's totally fine. Why? Because it's less than a shiur. And achila and haktara, eating and burning, are not the same activities, so they don't join together. So then if he had just have had in mind, half a kezayit is going to eat outside of the time. It's half a kezayit. It doesn't add up. It's enough sufficient to be significant. And so even though it's two halves, but the two halves do not combine because they're two halves of different activities. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen.